My apartment's glass shattered. A gunman stormed in. Mark swore he'd protect me. He ran, locked the bathroom door, and then he whispered something chilling as I left. I'm Lily, a 29-year-old graphic designer living in Chicago. My life used to feel like a dream, mostly because of Mark, my boyfriend of 4 years. We met at a local art gallery during a rainy spring evening, bonding over our love for vibrant oil paintings and strong coffee. Mark was charming, with his easy smile and quick wit. He'd make me laugh until my sides hurt, and we'd spend hours exploring the city, from the Art Institute to cozy diners in Wicker Park. Our relationship felt perfect at first. Mark was attentive, always texting me sweet messages, planning surprise date nights, and listening when I rambled about my latest design projects. We moved in together 2 years ago, into a cozy apartment in Logan Square, complete with a tiny balcony where we'd sip wine and watch the sunset. Everyone thought we were the ideal couple. My friends called us the Chicago Power Duo. I believed it too. Mark promised he'd always have my back no matter what. His words felt like a warm blanket, wrapping me in a sense of safety. But beneath the surface, cracks were forming. I didn't notice them at first, too caught up in our whirlwind romance. Looking back, I realize I ignored the little signs, the moments he'd shy away from conflict, the times he'd change the subject when things got tense. I thought it was just his laid-back nature. I was wrong. Soon, those small moments would pile up, and one terrifying night would shatter the illusion I'd built around him. It was a chilly November night in our Logan Square apartment. Mark and I were curled up in bed, the city's hum a faint backdrop. I was half asleep, lulled by the radiator's soft clanks, when a loud crash jolted me awake. Glass shattered downstairs. My heart pounded like a drum. I grabbed Mark's arm, whispering, "Did you hear that?" His eyes widened, but before I could say more, he bolted out of bed. I thought he was going to check it out, maybe grab the baseball bat by the door. Instead, I heard his footsteps sprint across the hall, then the bathroom door slammed shut. The lock clicked. I froze, alone in the dark, my stomach twisting. Was he seriously hiding? I whispered his name, but only silence answered. Then, heavy footsteps creaked up the stairs. My blood ran cold. A shadow appeared in the doorway. A man, his face hidden under a hoodie, a gun glinting in his hand. "Don't move," he growled, his voice low and rough. I couldn't breathe, my hands trembling as I nodded. He rummaged through my dresser, snatching my jewelry necklaces my mom gave me, a watch from my grandma. He found our emergency cash, $500 stashed in a tin box, and stuffed it into his pocket. I kept glancing at the bathroom door, praying Mark would burst out, do something, anything, but it stayed shut. The intruder didn't even glance that way, like he knew I was alone. He pointed the gun at me one last time, said, "Stay quiet," and slipped out. My legs shook as I heard the front door creak open, then silence. I stumbled to the bathroom, banging on the door. "Mark, he's gone!" I yelled, my voice cracking with anger. He opened the door, pale, his eyes darting. "Is he really gone?" he stammered. I rolled my eyes, biting back a scream. I grabbed my phone, hands still shaking, and called 911. The police arrived within minutes, their flashlights cutting through the dark apartment. They asked if we recognized the guy. We didn't. I explained what happened, my voice steady but burning inside. Mark stood there, head down, as the officers shot him subtle, judging looks. One cop, a burly guy with a Chicago accent, said, "You left her out there alone?" Mark mumbled something about panic, but I barely listened. The police suggested we get cameras, maybe an alarm system, and promised to keep an eye out for the guy. After they left, I sat on the couch, staring at the broken window. Mark tried to hug me, but I pulled away. How could he just hide? He'd promised to protect me, but when it mattered, he locked himself away. I glanced at him, already asleep in bed, oblivious. My trust in him cracked that night, like the glass scattered across our floor. The home invasion left a scar, but I tried to move past it. Mark apologized, swore it was just panic, and I wanted to believe him. We'd built so much together in Chicago, our cozy Logan Square apartment, our late-night pizza runs, but the cracks kept growing. A few weeks later, we went to a movie theater in Wicker Park. As we walked to our seats, arms full of popcorn, some guy in a hurry slammed into me. Popcorn flew everywhere, scattering across the sticky floor. I gasped, more startled than hurt. The guy glanced back, smirked, and kept walking. I turned to Mark, expecting him to say something, maybe call the guy out, but he just stood there, staring at the mess. "Let's just go," he muttered, stepping over the popcorn. My jaw tightened. "You're not gonna say anything?" I asked, my voice sharp. He shrugged, said we shouldn't miss the movie. I sat through the film, fuming, no popcorn to munch on, no boyfriend to stand up for me. Then there was the incident at a diner in Lincoln Park. I'd posted a photo of my burger on Instagram, not thinking much of it. My ex, Ryan, who'd been a nightmare since our breakup, must have seen it. Despite blocking his dozen accounts, he showed up, storming to our table. "You're with this loser?" he shouted, pointing at Mark. "I loved you better," his voice echoed, drawing stares. I froze, my heart racing. Ryan leaned closer, spewing insults, calling me names. I looked at Mark, waiting for him to step in. He didn't. He sank into the booth, eyes wide like a deer in headlights. Our waiter, a lanky guy with tattoos, intervened, yelling for Ryan to leave. He called the cops, who escorted Ryan out. I sat there, humiliated, while Mark mumbled, "I didn't know what to do." I filed a restraining order later, alone, no help from Mark. I brushed it off at the time. Early in our relationship, he didn't know Ryan's history, but it stung, and it wasn't the last time. A month later, we took our Chihuahua, Luna, to a dog park in Andersonville. She yipped happily, chasing other dogs despite her tiny size. Then a massive Rottweiler bounded over, barking loudly at Luna. She yelped, scampering to me, jumping into my lap. The Rottweiler turned on me, teeth bared, growling. My heart pounded as I clutched Luna. I glanced at Mark, expecting him to step up. Instead, he slid behind me on the bench, his breath shaky. "Mark!" I hissed, but he didn't move. The Rottweiler's owner, a tall guy in a Cubs cap, whistled sharply. His dog trotted back, tail wagging. He apologized, said his dog was still learning. I spun to Mark, smacking his shoulder. What was that? I demanded. He stammered. It could have bitten me. I snapped. What about me? He said something about not wanting us both to get hurt, how he'd call for help if it came to that. My blood boiled. I grabbed Luna's leash and stormed off, Mark trailing behind. Each incident chipped away at my trust. The man who promised to protect me kept running, hiding, leaving me to face everything alone. I started to wonder if I could ever feel safe with him again. The weight of Mark's actions pressed harder each day. I needed perspective, someone to help me make sense of it. First, I turned to my sister, Emma, during a visit to our parents' house in Evanston, just north of Chicago. Emma and I were always close, like two peas in a pod growing up. Even though she'd moved to Wisconsin, seeing her felt like no time had passed. We slipped into her old bedroom, the walls still plastered with our teenage band posters. I spilled everything: the home invasion, the movie theater, the diner with Ryan, the dog park. My voice cracked as I described Mark hiding behind me, leaving me to face danger alone. Emma's eyes widened, her jaw dropping. Lily, that's insane, she said, shaking her head. Your life's like a bad reality show. I forced a laugh, but my chest tightened. I asked her what I should do. She leaned back, thoughtful. Look, Mark's probably just scared in those moments. No malice, right? He's still good to you otherwise. She pointed out how he listened, made me laugh, planned sweet dates. I nodded, wanting to believe her, but her words didn't soothe the ache. If anything, they made me question myself more. Was I overreacting? A few days later, I met my best friend Sarah for brunch at a cozy cafe in Lakeview. We hadn't seen each other in weeks, our schedule's a mess. Over pancakes and coffee, she asked about Mark. I unloaded again, recounting every incident, my voice low to avoid eavesdroppers. Sarah, who used to joke we were the perfect Chicago Barbie and Ken, looked stunned. He just hid every time? She asked, her fork frozen midair. I nodded, my throat tight. She leaned forward, her voice soft but firm. That's not okay, Lily. You deserve better. Sarah shared a story about her boyfriend, Tom. They'd been in New York for their anniversary, wandering Manhattan. She was distracted, checking her phone, and stepped into a busy street. A taxi barreled toward her, horn blaring. Tom grabbed her arm, yanking her back just in time. She scraped her knee on the pavement, but she was safe. He didn't think twice, she said, her eyes shining. He just acted. I stared at my coffee, the contrast hitting hard. Tom risked himself for her. Mark ran to save himself. I drove home, Sarah's story looping in my head. My parents' house was my next stop, a few days later for Mom's birthday. After the cake, I pulled Mom aside in the kitchen, the smell of vanilla lingering. I told her everything, my voice shaking as I mentioned the dog park. She listened, her face calm but eyes sharp. Lily, she said, setting down her coffee mug, your dad always made me feel safe. He'd stand up for me no matter what. She described how Dad once confronted a guy harassing her at a grocery store, his voice steady, unafraid. Love is important, but so is feeling protected, she said. Her words sank deep, stirring something I'd been avoiding. I realized I craved that same strength in a partner, and Mark wasn't it. Each conversation left me more conflicted. Emma saw Mark's side, Sarah saw mine, and Mom made me see what I truly wanted. I loved Mark, but the doubt grew louder. Could I stay with someone who left me exposed time after time? My heart ached, torn between our history and my need for safety. Mark sensed the distance growing between us. To make up for the past few weeks, he planned a fancy dinner at a sleek restaurant in Chicago's River North. The place buzzed with clinking glasses and soft jazz, the kind of spot where you dress up and feel untouchable. I wanted to enjoy it, to recapture the spark we once had. Mark smiled across the table, talking about our old adventures, but my heart wasn't in it. I kept replaying the dog park, the diner, the home invasion. Halfway through our meal, a commotion erupted a few tables away. A couple's argument escalated, their voices cutting through the restaurant's hum. The man, red-faced, shouted about feeling unappreciated. I spent all day on you, and this is what I get, he yelled. His wife snapped back, her voice sharp. Maybe your secretary appreciates you more since you've dined with her before? The words hung heavy. And then it happened. His hand flew across the table, smacking her hard. She stumbled out of her chair, hitting the floor with a thud. Gasps rippled through the restaurant. My stomach churned, my fork frozen in my hand. Two men from nearby tables stood, striding toward the couple, their faces set with purpose. They shouted for the guy to back off, one grabbing his arm to pull him away. I turned to Mark, expecting him to join them, to do something. But his face went pale, his eyes darting to the exit. He slid down in his seat, his hands trembling. Then, as the chaos grew, he stood, but not to help. He bolted toward the back of the restaurant, weaving through tables, leaving me alone at ours. My chest tightened, a mix of rage and heartbreak. It was the home invasion all over again, Mark running, hiding, saving himself. The other men restrained the guy until security arrived, the woman sobbing as a waitress helped her up. I sat there staring at Mark's empty chair, the weight of his cowardice crushing me. I couldn't ignore it anymore. This wasn't just fear, it was who he was. I tossed cash on the table for the bill, my hands shaking, and stormed to the back. I found Mark near the kitchen, pacing, his face flushed. Lily, I didn't know what to do, he stammered. I grabbed his arm, dragging him to the car, my voice silent but my mind screaming. He'd failed me again, and this time, I knew it was over. The drive home from the restaurant was silent, the Chicago skyline blurring past my window. My heart felt heavy, like a stone sinking in my chest. Mark sat beside me staring ahead, his hands fidgeting. I knew what I had to do, but the thought of ending 4 years together made my throat tighten. Back at our Logan Square apartment, I waited until we were in the living room, the familiar hum of the city outside. I took a deep breath and said, Mark, we need to talk. He turned off the TV, his eyes wary but hopeful, like like he thought I'd forgive him again. I sat on the couch, clutching a pillow, and started. I love what we've had, Mark. You've been my best friend, my partner in everything. His face softened, a small smile forming. Then I continued, my voice steady but breaking inside. But I don't feel safe with you. Not anymore. His smile vanished, his eyes wide with shock. I recounted every moment: the home invasion, Ryan at the diner, the popcorn spill, the dog park, and now the restaurant. Each time he ran, hid, left me to face danger alone. I need a partner who'll stand by me, protect me, I said, my voice cracking. You've shown me over and over that you won't. Mark's face flushed, and he tried to interrupt, repeating his usual excuses: panic, instinct, fight or flight. I can change, Lily, he pleaded, his voice desperate. I'll try harder. I shook my head, tears stinging my eyes. I don't want to change you, Mark. I can't live feeling like I'm on my own when it matters most. The words hurt, but they were true. I told him I'd pack my things that night and move out. He begged me to stay, his voice breaking, reminding me of our years together, our shared dreams. My heart ached. Part of me wanted to hold him, to pretend it could work, but I couldn't ignore the truth anymore. I stood, grabbed a suitcase, and started packing, each item a reminder of the life we'd built. Mark watched, silent, as I walked out the door, my chest tight but my resolve firm. Leaving Mark was like stepping into a new world, both terrifying and freeing. I moved back to my parents' house in Evanston, my childhood bedroom a temporary refuge. The first few weeks were rough. I'd wake up reaching for Mark, only to remember he wasn't there. Our Logan Square apartment, our late-night talks, our silly dance parties in the kitchen, they haunted me. But with each day, a weight lifted, like I'd shed a heavy coat I didn't know I was wearing. I threw myself into work, designing logos at a small studio in Chicago's Loop. My friends rallied around me, Sarah dragging me to karaoke nights in Lakeview, Emma calling from Wisconsin to check in. Slowly, I started to feel like myself again, not the version of me tied to Mark's shadow. I realized I'd stayed with him so long because of our history, not because he met my needs. That truth stung, but it set me free. A year later, I met Jake at a coffee shop in Andersonville. He was a firefighter, broad-shouldered, with a laugh that filled the room. We bonded over lattes and a shared love for old vinyl records. On our first date, a walk along Lake Michigan, a drunk guy stumbled into me, yelling nonsense. Before I could react, Jake stepped in front, his voice calm but firm, telling the guy to back off. The man muttered and walked away. Jake turned to me, checking if I was okay, his hand steady on my shoulder. My heart raced, not from fear, but from feeling safe. Jake and I grew closer, exploring Chicago's hidden gems, from dive bars in Pilsen to jazz clubs in Bronzeville. He was strong, confident, but also kind, listening to my stories with a warmth Mark never quite had. When he asked me to be his girlfriend, I said yes without hesitation, a smile spreading across my face. With Jake, I felt protected, not just physically but emotionally, like I could finally breathe. Looking back, leaving Mark was the hardest thing I'd ever done. Losing our years together felt like losing a piece of myself, but it taught me what I truly need in a partner: courage, reliability, someone who'd stand by me no matter what. I saw that in my dad, in how he protected Mom, and now I saw it in Jake. The bittersweet lesson from Mark shaped me, guiding me to a future where I could feel safe, loved, and whole.